ball game.
And Flyers.
Tipped in front of the net.
97.3 ESPN, WENJ, WENJ HD, Millville, Atlantic City, a Town Square media station serving all of South Jersey. This is Game Night with Josh Hinnick.
It's good.
On 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app.
And he scored.
Now live from inside the Ocean Casino Resort Studio, here's Josh Hinnick.
Josh Hinnick here on 97.3 ESPN FM as we are in the heart of the NBA and NHL off seasons. Don't think I forgot about those Flyers. We got a lot to get to this hour. Phillies back in action today in Chicago. Michael Mercado makes his debut as a starter in the major leagues. Remember, he's appeared as a relief pitcher. This will be his first game as a starter. I'll get you my thoughts on the Phillies series starting in Chicago. Plus, I mentioned the Flyers. You know, for people like myself, I was very unsure. I was very wary of the Sixers offseason. And now that we got some action from the Sixers, we got to get the latest on the Flyers because as of right now, I'm a little more excited about the Flyers offseason and their upcoming year than I am the Sixers because the Sixers, it's a wait and see situation, whereas the Flyers, day one, Mishkov on the ice. He signed his entry-level deal. The Flyers have already brought back a couple players. We'll get into all of it with John Buccigross. Of course, he hosts The Point on ESPN TV and ESPN Plus. Hockey guy at heart. We'll get his perspective on the Flyers and the NHL this offseason because it's not just the NBA offseason, and the Sixers not just the only team in Philadelphia. We'll get John's perspective on all these things coming up in less than 20 minutes from now. As always, you guys can join the conversation with your thoughts and comments on the Phillies, Sixers, and Flyers. 609-403-0973. Your DMs into the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of CILC. All right. So we got to get to the Phillies first because the Phillies are the only team that's on the field or on the ice or on the court right now. Everybody else is in their offseason. The Eagles are off until the end of this month, basically, before they go back to training camp. And the Sixers and Flyers are in the heart of their offseason. But the Phillies start an important 6-game road trip tonight. And the Michael Mercado conversation is interesting to me because I'm not sure what to expect from this young man. Michael Mercado is a guy who is considered a special prospect, okay, for Philadelphia. He is someone who was not originally one of their prospects. He, like Jose Alvarado, is another guy that was let go of by the Tampa organization. And listen, it's not because they're bad pitchers. It's because as an organization, you got to make a decision at some point to move on or make changes. And Michael Mercado was the player that the Phillies received when they traded minor leaguer Adam Leverett in cash to Tampa this past offseason. So you have a young man who has spent the majority of his years in the Tampa organization. Now he's coming to Philadelphia. And in the minor leagues, he had 10 starts. Great ERA, 1.98 ERA, a good whip, 1.146 whip. But the concern about Mercado, that I am curious to see how it translates at the big league level. His strikeout to inning ratio was not great in the minor leagues. He had 44 strikeouts in 47 and a third innings. Not usually the ratio you would expect from a pitcher who has that great of an ERA at the minor league level. Again, 1.71 overall in the minors for the Phillies. And in his 10 minor league starts, 1.98 ERA. So now you have a pitcher who does not have a great strikeout to inning ratio, but with a great ERA, a solid whip, His metrics make him look to be a very good pitcher. Now, you go into this game against Chicago Cubs, who have the 25th batting average in Major League Baseball, the 15th on base percentage. What is a realistic expectation for Mercado tonight? Because there are two ways to look at this. Number one, we can look at Mercado as a young man who is just holding the fort down until the other guys take his spot, right? He's holding it down for Taijuan Walker and Spencer Turnbull, who are both on the injured list. And whatever you get from him is gravy, and the Phillies just needed a solid pitcher to get them through the next few weeks. That's one way to look at it. Another way to look at it is, what if Mercado pitches well? And when Walker and Turnbull return, what do you do with those guys? Well, could Mercado be a trade piece? Could he be a guy who has a good month and you eventually leverage him to be a trade piece? Not saying it's going to happen, but something to think about. The other thing about Mercado is, what if he pitches so well this month? What do you do with Walker and Turnbull? Do you consider trading either of those guys at the deadline and say, look, this young guy Mercado, he's a stud. He's pitching well for us, and we will pay another team to absorb Taijuan Walker or Spencer Turnbull. So that's a big conversation I'm looking forward to, not just tonight, for the next couple weeks, because Taijuan Walker could come off the injured list by July 9th. The problem with July 9th is Mercado might have to start 2 games before we get there. Now, as of right now, Mercado is scheduled to pitch tonight against the Cubs and July 7th against the Braves. So as of right now, Walker is not on track to start anytime soon. But July 13th is open against the Oakland A's. If you're the Phillies, and let's say Mercado has a good game tonight and a good game against the Braves, don't you have to give him the game against Oakland on the 13th and just tell Taijuan Walker, take the All-Star break off and you come back after that? A lot of questions about the Phillies with their pitching staff moving forward. Now, the other question coming into this series is, the Phillies offense is averaging only 3.67 runs per game without Harper and Schwarber. Not exactly great. And I was wondering who they were going to play at DH. David Dahl is playing DH again tonight. This will be the second time since Schwarber went down that Dahl has filled in at DH. And I think we all know that he's David Dahl. He's not exactly an elite player at this point. Phillies lineup tonight brought to you by Clark's Moving and Storage of Rio Grande, moving the breeze with Clark's Moving and Storage. Bryson Stott, Trey Turner, Alec Boehm, Brandon Marsh, Nick Castellanos, Cody Clemens, David Dahl, Garrett Stubbs, Johan Rojas. So they're going with Dahl again at DH. They don't seem too concerned about breaking up the lefties and the righties at this point. They're just saying, whatever. We got Clemens, Dahl, and Stubbs in a row. Who cares? Very interesting strategy by the Phillies. And sticking with Dahl makes me wonder, is he going to be the odd man out when Schwarber comes back? Because as of right now, I don't see a role for Dahl in his team unless he starts picking up his hitting real quick. And then, can I just be honest with you guys? And I know I'm going to sound like a negative Nancy when I say this. Can we please stop campaigning for Nick Castellanos to be an all-star? This is the most embarrassing thing in the world. It's because of the unbridled passion of the Philadelphia fan base that Castellanos is a finalist to potentially be an all-star starter. The dude is batting .231 on the year. 231. And people are legitimately voting for this guy to be in the All-Star game. There is nothing about Nick Castellanos this year that is All-Star worthy. Nothing. He isn't one of the best RBI men or the best home run guys. He doesn't have a great on-base percentage, doesn't have a great batting average. There's nothing All-Star worthy about him. But yet, there's a contingent of Philly fans who are pressing yes on Nick Castellanos. Why? See, I remember back in the day, we used to vote for the best players to get into the All-Star game. And even if the best player wasn't on your team, you look at that guy on the ballot. When you get those paper ballots, we went to the ballpark, and you punch the hole in the ballot. You remember that if you're over a certain age, like myself, Josh Hennick here on 97.3 ESPN. We used to sit there and we used to vote because we had a conscience. We were baseball people. Now, you have these fans jumping on social media, voting for Nick Castellanos when he has done nothing worthy of All-Star. Nothing. The dude is among the best in baseball at nothing. Absolutely nothing. The fact that this guy is being promoted as by Philly's Twitter and everything, vote for Castellanos, let him be an All-Star. It's a joke. It's an absolute joke to me. I don't understand it. I don't understand why Philly fans, for as much as they complain about Castellanos, now they're going to vote for him to be All-Star game, potential starter. I mean, if he becomes an All-Star, he's got to go down as one of the worst All-Stars in baseball history. It's an absolute joke. Last year, he was on fire. He was having an amazing season. This year, he's hit well in 10 games overall? Like, it's not an All-Star. Whoever's voting for Castellanos, you need to get your head checked. It's ridiculous. All right, text board is open. 609-403-0973. Your DMs into 973 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle. Steve from Ventnor, I see your text. We'll get to you a little bit later in the hour. But coming up next, John Buccigross from ESPN will get his perspective on the NHL and Flyers offseason coming up next here on 973 ESPN and 973 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Sea Isle City.
Wake up weekday mornings from 6 to 10 a.m. with Unsportsmanlike on 97.3 ESPN with Evan Cohen, Super Bowl champion Chris Canty, and Michelle Small.
Can't wake up without it.
Brought to you by the Gallery Bar Book and Games at Ocean Casino Resort in Atlantic City.
Something good to know from First Bank of Sea Isle City. We have all of today's innovative banking products just like the big banks, but we offer something they can't. A personal community focus. Let's get you started with Bill Pay. You save time when you pay your bills online. It's fast, easy, and convenient. First Bank of Sea Isle City, a community bank that delivers more for you every day. Personal service, today's technology, from the people who truly care. Learn more at firstbankseaisle.com.
Member FDIC, equal housing lender.
4th of July appliance savings are happening now at the Home Depot. Save up to $2,400 on select kitchen packages from brands like LG, America's most reliable line of appliances. Get the LG French door refrigerator with craft ice to keep your summer cool. Or upgrade to the LG Smart Top Load washer with AI that selects optimal wash motions and settings. Get up to $2,400 off select kitchen packages at the Home Depot. How doers get more done. Pricing valid June 19th through July 10th, U.S. only. See store online for details. America's most reliable line of appliances per independent study.
It's the Nissan Thrill of Summer sales event going on now at Matt Blatt Nissan. You'll be thrilled in a new Nissan Sentra S, just $159 per month lease, or Kicks S, just $199 per month lease, and 0 security deposit.
Oh yeah, it's on at Matt Blatt Nissan.
You heard right. New Matt Blatt Nissan Kicks S, just $199 per month, or Sentras, only $159 per month lease, both with 0 security deposit, $29.99 due, and you'll be cruising up to 39 miles per gallon. Stuck in a loan or lease? AJ the Trade Man can get you released, so don't repair it, don't fix the broken windshield, don't even wash it. Bring it to MattBlattNissan.com. On approved Tier 1 credit for DMAC. Negative equity will be refinanced into new vehicle plus tax tag and $589 fee. Offers can't be combined. Call 877-289-6670 or go to MattBlattNissan.com for complete details. details. VIN RY324390 and RI4984444. Central lease selling price $21,570. Kicks lease selling price $22,840. Offer ends 7/6/2024.
It's on at Matt Blatt Nissan
On the Black Horse Pike, Egg Harbor Township.
At Progressive, we know money can't buy happiness. But money did buy your boat, where you find peace fishing, unlike at home with 3 teenage daughters. Because fish never argue about who stole whose crop top, or get mad the other fish used up all the hot water. No, they just swim around, never embarrassed to be seen with you in public. So save money by bundling your boat or RV insurance with home or auto from Progressive. And buy more happiness, or something close to it. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company affiliates and other insurers, not available in all states.
Shop the Sherwin-Williams July holiday sale and get 30% off paints and stains from June 28th through July 8th. With prices starting at $34.29, it's the perfect time to transform your space with color. Whether you're looking to revamp your bedroom, living room, or home office, we have you covered with bold hues, soothing neutrals, and everything in between. Shop the sale online or visit your neighborhood Sherwin-Williams store. Retail sales only. Some exclusions apply. See store for details.
There's an issue cutting through the bipartisan bickering in Congress. It's AM radio. The overwhelming majority of legislators, Democrats and Republicans, support a bill to keep AM radio in cars. But time is running out. Text AM to 52886 and ask Congress to bring this bill to the floor for a vote now. AM radio is too important to let this moment pass us by.
Message and data rates may apply. You may receive up to 4 messages a month, and you may text STOP to stop.
This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters.
Powered by the all-new BetParks New Jersey Casino and Sportsbook app. BetParks.com. This is the Town Square, New Jersey Info and Weather Network.
The odds are rising for the 76ers to win a title. I'm Nick Earnshaw with your South Jersey Sports Center and with your 97.3 ESPN question of the day. With the 76ers having a busy offseason and bringing in Paul George, their odds to win a title continue to rise. So that got us thinking here at 97.3 ESPN. Are the Sixers the second best team in the NBA? Let us know by texting 609-403-0973 or use the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app. In my opinion, I think they're a little less than the second best team right now. Boston obviously is the champion. There's other teams out west that you have to worry about, like the Mavericks, the Nuggets, etc. So I think there's still a ways to go for the Sixers, and you just have to wait and see what they are able to do. All right, once again, text in at 609-403-0973. Your forecast is next.
From playtime to showtime, Atlantic City always serves classic summer fun with a twist of cool. Visit AtlanticCityNJ.com to win an overnight getaway.
From the Town Square, New Jersey Info and Weather Network, I'm Chris Coleman. Our streak of beautiful summertime weather here in South Jersey will continue for the next couple of days, but things will turn unsettled, of course, just in time for the long holiday weekend. Partly cloudy for tonight, down to 58. Sunny again tomorrow, up to 83. Then for the 4th, a mix of sun and clouds, chance of an afternoon thunderstorm with a high of 91, and that'll pretty much be the case all the way through the upcoming weekend. Get weather 24/7 wherever you are. Download our free app today.
97.3 ESPN has teamed up with Seize the Deal for incredible weekly offers from some fantastic local restaurants. Here's this week's big deal.
Get a $50 gift card good for use at Bright Spot Cafe in Sea Isle City for just $25.
Get this great deal starting Friday at 9 a.m. at seizethedeal.com. Hurry, chances are this deal will sell quickly. For more info on this great deal, go to seizethedeal.com.
SeizeTheDeal.com. This is Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app.
We'll check back in on the text board in just a bit. Keep them coming in at 609-403-0973 in your DMs into the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle. But joining us right now as ESPN and the rest of the NHL has started announcing the dates for the next season opening night. The man who will be a part of that will be John Buccigross, of course, ESPN radio, that's right, ESPN show host, The Point, ESPN2, ESPN Plus, of course, during the season. And John, I called you earlier a hockey guy. Is that a fair description? You're a hockey guy.
Yeah, I'm a sports guy. I like them all, and hockey's one of them, so I'm good with that.
John, first of all, how are you enjoying this offseason? Because it feels like with the Stanley Cup Finals going 7 games, it almost like propelled people into the draft and into the offseason.
Yeah, I agree. It's been a kind of non-continuous. You even go back to, Connor Bedard opening night and the fanfare that he kind of brought Chicago, the big market team, trying to get back into the spotlight, much like the Flyers. And then the season just really caught a lot of good momentum, great storylines, and right up through the great playoffs, the Stanley Cup final. And then it just seemed like another cool draft at the Sphere, and then free agency and some trades. And it's been a really some good momentum for the hockey fan. And now we kind of obviously go dormant for a while, for a couple of months, and then training camp starts early September, and then boom, we're back in about 90 days on opening night.
John, you mentioned about the Flyers. I made the comment that for people like myself, I'm actually looking forward to the Flyers more than the Sixers. Not because I don't think what the Sixers did was nothing. I mean, obviously bringing Paul George is a big deal for a lot of people, but you have a guy like Mishkov coming to America. You can play the Neil Diamond song in the background when he comes over, right? But the idea being that this guy wasn't supposed to be here yet. And you mentioned Connor Bedard. I mean, is it fair for Flyer fans to look at Mishkov in that kind of vein?
Yeah, I think it is. He's a more dynamic skater than Bedard. Bedard is kind of that, the smaller guy who can really shoot, uber hockey sense, very competitive. So we'll just have to see if Mishkov has that hunger, that maniacal hunger and commitment to the game that Bedard has, like a Crosby, where their whole life revolves around it, what they eat, when they sleep, how they live. And so that's going to be certainly something they have to look at, because those guys are, they're kind of rare, and you kind of build your franchise around them, kind of like Nathan McKinnon in Colorado. So Connor McDavid in Edmonton. So we'll see, but he's certainly a star they need. They need stars, and he's a big piece of if they're going to make that next step. They need him to pop. If they don't, it could be another 5-10 years. I mean, he's a very important piece. They took a shot last year. He was there. It looks like it could be a stroke of genius. If everyone knew he was coming last year, he would have been probably the second pick, maybe the third. So the Flyers definitely got one there. Now we'll see if they can continue to add a couple pieces like him, because they have a lot of they have good players. They have good stuff. They need a few really shiny toys, and he has the potential to be a shiny toy. Now they have to figure out how to get a couple of more.
I love how you said that he's a piece, because you're right. The Flyers had a lot of really good players this year, but they haven't had like a legit superstar in a while. And I mean, in an area where people even looked at Claude Giroux, not even as a legitimate star player at times for some of the fans down here. John, you look around the Flyers, what does Mishkov do? Like, let's say he doesn't hit like his potential per se immediately, but let's say he at least gets to a level of, you mentioned, like maybe doing the flashes like Bedard had. How does that change the Flyers to the rest of the NHL?
Yeah, it's just, someone like an Arturi Panarin, certainly I think that people look at him as at least a point per game guy. Who knows, maybe he touches 90 to 100. Just, uber high skill finisher, and just that electrifies the team in the city. And that can really be obviously a big factor when you have someone like that. It just gives everybody more juice and motivation and just a sense of electricity. And you need guys like that can do that. And then, of course, he needs support. They got to continue to add the right pieces. And, whether it's an elite defenseman, 3 or 4 more forwards that kind of, play at least with him, at least maybe 1 or 2. So that, you really kind of need those 3-4 stars. You just look at the Panthers and Barkov and Kachuk and Reinhart, and then even like a Verhaeghe. So maybe Tippett can be like Verhaeghe, and they have no one close to Barkov. They don't even have a Kachuk. And then you look at Gustav Forsling on the back end, a 40, 50-point defenseman who can defend one-on-one. They really don't have a Forsling. And Brandon Montour, who is a power play point guy who, 10-plus goals and has a big slap shot. And they don't have a Brandon Montour. So the Flyers have a lot of stuff they have to start getting, whether it's developing guys who make a little jump up, sometimes more than you expect. No one expected Carter Verhaeghe quite to turn into this in his early 20s. So, could have Farabee and could make another move up that we're not quite expecting. So, they kind of bet on that a little bit. So that's the thing. They have some decent stuff, But now they need to get a couple more of those stars. And, of course, the goaltending is a huge question mark. And they just don't look like a playoff team or maybe a playoff bubble team with their current goalies.
We're talking with John Buccigross. Of course, he is the host of The Point, which you can see on ESPN2 and ESPN Plus throughout the hockey season. But, John, you're also author of the book, Jonesy, Put Your Head Down and Skate. And the man who wrote the book with, Keith Jones, he's now the head of the Flyers. So what is your take on Jonesy being the man pushing the buttons at the top for the Flyers organization?
Yeah, that was something. Certainly when we wrote that book, I never pictured Jonesy being a president of a team. And even right before he got the job, it kind of came out of nowhere. But when you think about it, he's just an absolute uber people person. The way he is around people, he gets people. He can talk certainly to a room full of executives and ownership. And he can talk to a room full of janitors and Zamboni drivers. I mean, he connects with everybody. He's got just a special touch about him. He's very smart about the game of hockey. For a guy like that, who wasn't a high-level player as he went into college, for him to figure out how to have an NHL career and how to play with Peter Forsberg and Joe Sakic and Eric Lindros and how to play with no, patellar tendon in his right kneecap and somehow get around the ice and skate and be somewhat effective without being able to jog across the street. Like, he just figured it out. And that's what he kind of does in life. He figures it out. So if anybody is going to figure this out as the point man of the Flyers, Jonesy's as good as anybody. So I think it was an absolute fantastic hire, and he's going to continue to try to figure this out.
John, I asked this question to a couple of people last week, and I wanted to present to you as well because Keith Jones played in the NHL. Danny Briere played in the NHL. How do you think that guys who played in the league, their experience, how do you think that could maybe help them in a way that maybe other executives who didn't play in the league when it comes to dealing with players and putting together a roster?
Actually, I don't think it matters that much. They can maybe glean a couple of things that they could do. But you just look at the Florida Panthers, Bill Zito, the GM, Paul Maurice, the coach, neither played in the league, played NHL hockey. So it doesn't matter. It's a different skill set. Talent evaluation has nothing to do how good of a wrist shot you have. Picking the right coach, doesn't matter how well you skate, to pick the right coach, to assess and look at your room and who does these are different muscles. These are different skills. And again, certainly there is some empathy they can have as a former player that they can get in there and, what they need to hear, what could help them here in a certain situation. And I'm sure those guys who didn't play like a Zito and a Maurice certainly probably ask other people or ask, what could happen over time. They have so much experience. Bill Zito was a former agent, so he dealt with players all the time because he sense how they tick. Their complaints to him, if I'm ever in charge, I'll remember that. And again, Paul Maurice has been coaching since his late 20s and early 30s. So again, he's going to learn anyway. So, certainly maybe new on the job, it can help them a little bit. But yeah, this is a whole different, game. You got to pick right players. You have to make the correct trades. You have to assess how much money we give this guy with this hard salary cap. Really has nothing to do with the skills it takes to be a professional hockey player, size, strength, coordination. It's a different thing.
We couldn't have a conversation involving the Flyers if I didn't ask you about John Tortorella. There were some conversations, at least in our area, about Torts potentially being a coach of the year candidate for taking a team that had zero expectations and bringing them close to a playoff berth. What is your take on this version of John Tortorella coaching in Philadelphia?
Yeah, he's just a great coach, and when they hired him, if they wanted to tank, they hired the wrong guy because they weren't going to finish as bad as maybe they thought they would with him. And it probably cost them a few spots last year, but they still got Mishkov. And this year, like I said, they weren't going to be in the top three high end or have a chance for Celebrini with Torts. He's just too good of a coach. He brings out the best in too many players. If that was going to be your plan, like it was in Chicago to tank and San Jose to tank. So he was the wrong guy for that job. So, but that ship has sailed. But to have a guy like him who continues to learn and adjust and to really still be able to connect in an old school way with these young players, that's that takes a pretty good touch. But he's certainly an authentic guy who's great to be around. I'm sure the young players look at him as almost like a dad figure and almost like kind of like this wise old guy. And, that can either work or it doesn't. And I think the why it works for Torts, because he still brings great energy. People know they care about him. And some people just have that skill where people don't want to let him down. And he kind of evokes that, and he brings it out of people. I just don't want to let that guy down. I might not even like him, but I don't want to let him down. He was great for Sanheim last year. Produced a career year.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see if that's going to be a flash in the pan or if he can kind of continue to be that guy. And I'm sure now he's going to try to get it with Tippett, and certainly a great year from Tippett last year. Now, can he get Farabee's game up? And then, his job is to take these guys as far as they can. And then obviously as Briere and Jonesy have their conversations with him, it's like, well, maybe this is as good as this guy is going to be. We need to replace him or find someone a little bit better. So that's kind of how it is for Torts. I see him wanting to be a part of the Flyers long term. Who knows how long he wants to coach every day and take all those charters and be cold behind the bench and wear his vest to make himself warmer. Maybe he only coaches another year or two and then has a different kind of role. And but to be a part of the Flyers and just to create that culture and that pulse, it'll be interesting to see.
Talking with ESPN's John Buccigross here on Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN. Opening night was announced, John. You got a fascinating triple header to start the NHL season. Blues versus Kraken, followed by Bruins versus Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers. And then the nightcap, Blackhawks and the Utah Hockey Club. But before I get to that, I got to ask you, I hate the Utah Hockey Club name. I got to know your perspective on this.
Yeah, it's kind of like the soccer thing, the FC and the thing like that. And so obviously, I don't know why they have to wait a year. It sounds like Yeti is the favorite in the clubhouse, but maybe they just want the proper amount of time to get that logo right and just kind of feel their way through a year. They can then sell a whole other batch of T-shirts and merchandise. So from that perspective, it's a good business move. It's like when a player changes his number midway through a career, it just sells more jerseys. So this way they get that initial excitement about, okay, I'll buy anything they make. And then as they really work on a logo and they think about it, and the two owners, they really kind of get an understanding of what hockey is all about, and they can sit back and just go through a year and maybe look at a bunch of different things. Don't rush it, and then they can really unveil this really cool logo and different merchandise. Maybe tweak the colors a touch, although I like them. So yeah, I think it just gives them time. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And maybe the cynical part of me says it's to double up on the merchandise and get some quick cash to come in. But it's probably the smart thing to do. Just take your time and then unveil that name next year.
I think they need to give you a consulting fee. You just did a better job than a PR firm at explaining
Pretty
that.
good. Pretty good. I think I'd be strong in that area.
I think, maybe a little side
career.
little thing,
Yeah, side hustle.
John, for you, I mean, you've been at ESPN for a long time, and you've seen the evolution of ESPN's coverage over the years. When you hear numbers like viewership is up 58% for the Stanley Cup final, when you see these numbers just going up and up every single round for the playoffs on ESPN, is there a part of you that looks back on where it was when you first got to ESPN, was like NHL Tonight and everything, and where it is now? Like, is there a part of you that looks around and just says, wow?
Yeah, the league and the sport really has kind of grown up, and that's where you got to give a lot of credit to Gary Bettman. He was the first commissioner of hockey before they didn't even have one. It was basically a little boys' club of Canadian guys who were running this little men's league. And it just, they didn't think big, and they wanted to keep it to themselves. Over half the league, like 75, 80, 90% of the league was Canadian, going back in the 70s and then the 80s. And so it slowly began to change. And, of course, they hired Bettman to be commissioner. He's grown the sport into a $6 billion sport. There's a team in Raleigh, North Carolina, and just outside Fort Lauderdale and Tampa, Florida. That just wasn't the case. Back obviously in the 70s and 80s, no one could even envision a team in Las Vegas. And now those teams are winning Stanley Cups. The Panthers this year and Vegas and even Denver, Colorado. And then, in Tampa Bay for a couple of years. It's like, wow. So the way the sport has grown on the map, they're producing NHL players in Southern California and Texas, where, again, it used to be 95% Canada. The United States now has a third of the league is born in the U.S. We've become a hockey power. So, you really got to give Gary Bettman credit to professionalize the offices of the NHL in New York City and make it much more, especially North American. Before it was just almost all Canadian. Now it's kind of a hybrid of, U.S. Canadian primarily. And now, of course, they're trying to slowly grow the game in Sweden and these other places where they play hockey and like hockey. They don't have massive populations, but they're trying to get those people to be NHL fans, buy sweaters, buy gear, buy merchandise, maybe take a trip to the States or Canada and go on a little vacation to see a couple hockey games, NHL games. So they play games over in Sweden and Czech Republic and places like that. So, and Finland, which I think they're going next year. So, they've done a great job growing the sport and professionalizing it, at least from a monetary standpoint. Of course, the challenge going forward is just to keep the game interesting, because let's face it, there aren't as many characters as there used to be when there was the Broad Street Bullies and the big bad Boston Bruins. And they're just, and even in the turn of the century, people like Darcy Tucker and Max Domi, these are great villains. And we've got to get away from that, become a game of skill. So there's certainly less characters and personality and a lot more skill. And that's the trade-off. So it'd be nice to be a little more balanced back to characters. That's why someone like a Kachuk is so good for the game. He has kind of a villain personality to him. And, of course, the Flyers, I think that was one of Jonesy's moves. Delorier and Hathaway, they're not really villains. They're just tough dudes who can fight. But you like the Tom Wilson. We need more of those guys, not less.
John, before I let you go, I'd be remiss if we didn't mention Barry Melrose, BucciOT.com. Tell folks about the Barry Melrose t-shirts.
Yeah, Barry, unfortunately, I've been dealing with Parkinson's. Obviously, that doesn't get better. It only gets worse. So I just kind of contacted an artist, and we worked on a cool logo that when you look at it, even though there's no eyes and nose, it's Barry Melrose. Yep. And that's an icon. When you can have a logo without any facial features like that, it's just his goatee, a cigar, and the mullet. And that's Barry Melrose. That's an icon. So yeah, BucciOT.com, selling T-shirts to give the Parkinson's research, the Michael J. Fox organization, which is sensational. Michael J. Fox, there's a great video going viral now of him playing guitar with Coldplay at a concert. So I kind of was happy and sad at the same time, knowing that that's Barry shares the same disease with that. They're both Canadians as well. So yeah, so just try to it's a way to honor Barry more than anything. Michael J. Fox can raise more than I could ever sell in T-shirts in one night. But again, it's more a gesture to help out. Every little bit helps, and yeah, it's great to give Barry his stick taps, and it's great to hear the fans and see the fans buy the T-shirts and do their part just to help a little bit. I love the connecting and connections with the fans.
Absolutely. BucciOT.com is where you can get the T-shirts and donate to the cause. John, I really appreciate the time and the conversation. Enjoy the off season, and we'll talk when the hockey season gets closer again.
Sounds good. Appreciate you.
Absolutely. Josh Hennick here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN FM and a 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle. All right, still to come, Steve from Ventnor. He's been blowing up the text board. We'll get to your messages and more coming up here on 97.3 ESPN. Don't forget Game Night being brought to you by Boxing Insider Promotions, biggest event of the summer. It is the must-attend boxing event of 2024. It is at Tropicana Atlantic City's showroom on Friday, July 26th, where undefeated junior middleweight Justin Figueroa of Atlantic City will be on a card that features top-rated heavyweight Otto Wallen, Absegami High School's Bruce Selden Jr., and many more of the top up-and-coming fighters in the boxing world. Get your tickets now at Ticketmaster.com. Boxing Insider Promotions event of the summer at Tropicana Atlantic City showroom on Friday, July 26th. Josh Hennick hanging out with you here on 97.3 ESPN. The Power Hour continues next.
The 4th of July on ESPN Radio.
Let's go! And there go the fireworks.
First at Wrigley, Cody Bellinger and the Chicago Cubs welcome the NL East's leading Philadelphia Phillies. Then in Atlanta, Marcel Ozuna leads the Atlanta Braves against the San Francisco Giants. The Phillies at the Cubs at 1:30 Eastern, followed by the Giants at the Braves at 6:30 Eastern. The 4th of July on ESPN Radio.
It's Phillies baseball on 97.3 ESPN.
Do summer projects your way with 4th of July savings from the Home Depot. With free delivery on over 2 million items, you can make the most of summer grilling and dig into gardening. Plus, get same-day delivery on thousands of products like power tools and storage to tackle any last-minute garage project. Summer your way with 4th of July savings from the Home Depot. How doers get more done. Order select and stock items by 4 p.m. subject to availability.
What's that sound? That's the sound of Downy Unstoppable scent beads going into your washing machine and giving your clothes freshness that lasts all day long. There it is again. It's like music to your ears, or more like music to your nose. That freshness is irresistible. Let's get a Downy Unstoppables bottle shake. And now a sniff solo. Nice. Get 6 times longer lasting freshness plus odor protection with Downy Unstoppables in wash scent beads.
Discover the open road with Hitch RV, your family-owned destination for hassle-free RV shopping. We're here to stay and even better than before, promising a no-pressure experience and unbeatable deals. Our dedicated team guides you to the perfect RV, ensuring your adventure starts on the right note. Forget the stress. Join our family and let's make memories together. Hitch RV, where your journey begins without the hassle. Browse our massive selection today at hitchrv.com.
The wait is over. Dell Technologies Black Friday and July deals are live. Check out incredible savings on select laptops and more, like the XPS 15, powered by Intel Core processors. The XPS 15 brings you the perfect balance of power and portability, plus stellar visuals and immersive sound. When you shop online at Dell.com/deals, you'll have access to exceptional tech and electronics, plus free shipping on everything. Don't miss out on Black Friday and July savings at Dell.com/deals. That's Dell.com/deals.
Hi, I'm Cesar Milan. People are always commenting on how happy and healthy my dogs are. One of the reasons is the food my dogs eat.
Dr. Marty's Nature's Blend is a premium freeze-dried raw dog food designed to support your dog's health, happiness, and lifespan.
Their jaws are more flexible, their teeth are cleaner, and their coats shinier, and why they seem more youthful even as they age.
I'm veterinarian Dr. Marty Goldstein. I've helped countless dogs thrive with one simple concept. Your dog needs a high-meat diet similar to what their ancestors ate in the wild.
Dr. Marty created Nature's Blend using 50 years of nutritional research and experience, helping dogs make incredible turnarounds. Save up to 54% off Nature's Blend and get a free bag of Cod Krispies, their wild-caught, ultra-crunchy cod skin treats. Go to drmartypets.com/deal or text DEAL to 511-511.
Your order is backed with a 90-day guarantee.
All dogs are unique. Your dog results can and will vary. Message and data rates may apply.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
Welcome to AutoZone. What are you working on today? Dead battery on America's birthday? America's #1 battery destination is here to help. AutoZone has free battery testing and charging at every store, and batteries starting at just $79.99. With our 4th of July sale, we have savings to help you red, white, and do any other jobs you've been putting off. It's everything you need to get back on the road at AutoZone.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
Restrictions apply.
Want to save on some of the biggest names in streaming on the network made for streaming? X marks the spot. Now through July 7th, get 300 megabit Xfinity internet for $25 a month for 12 months with no annual contract. And for just $15 a month, add the new Stream Saver. That includes Peacock, Apple TV Plus, and Netflix. All your favorites, all in one place, only from Xfinity. So go ahead and binge some shows, stream some movies, and save some money all at the same time. For more watching and less spending, X marks the spot. Switch to Xfinity, the network made for streaming, and bring on the good stuff. Go to Xfinity.com, call 1-800-XFINITY, or visit a store today. Restrictions apply. Requires paperless billing and auto pay with stored bank account. Equipment taxes and fees extra. After promo, regular internet rates apply. Currently $80 a month. Actual speeds vary. Stream Saver requires Xfinity internet or TV and price subject to change.
What's wrong?
My travel rewards card didn't earn enough miles for my vacation.
Are you crying? Are you crying because of that other credit card?
Uh-huh.
Well, switch to the Capital One Venture card. Venture lets you redeem miles on any travel purchase.
Really?
Yep, and you earn unlimited double miles on every purchase every single day. The Capital One Venture card. What's in your wallet?
Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com for details.
Progressive knows when you own a boat, life on land is a tough sell.
Come on down to Land, where you can do things like clean your gutters, pay tolls, and even get the wrong thing you ordered. We got it all. Potholes, people talking at the movies, and don't forget about flat tires when it's raining. It's Land.
Life on a boat is way more relaxing, so customize your coverage with Progressive, America's #1 boat insurer. And relax, knowing you got the coverage you need. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates, #1 rating based on 2022 boat market share data from ratefilings.com.
It's a Jersey summer because the New Jersey Lottery has a new scratch-off with 6 New Jersey themes and prizes up to $500,000. From our diners to our pizza to the shore, look for the tickets called It's a Jersey Thing and turn your Jersey pride into prizes. Anything can happen in Jersey.
Now, more Game Night with Josh Hennick on 97.3 ESPN and on the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app powered by First Bank of Sea Isle City.
As promised, to the text board 609-403-0973. Your DMs into the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Sea Isle City. All right, Steve from Ventnor, as we know, always has something to say when the Phillies conversation comes up. He says, Dave Dahl is giving his audition to stick around after everyone returns from injury. He gives them a little pop with Schwarber and Harper out. I'm okay with Dahl playing against righties for right now. If the Phillies are able to acquire a right-handed bat, they may want to keep Dahl over Christian Pache. Remember when the Phillies broke camp in late March? The concern was we didn't have the left-handed bat for the bench after they traded Jake Cave to Colorado. Steve from Ventnor goes on to say, I think the Phillies need to go all in for an outfielder and a right-handed pitcher. He finishes by saying Mercado performed as well. There's no setbacks. Spencer Turnbull. Maybe the Phillies could do a bad contract swap with the Blue Jays for George Springer. So let's address each of these points. My problem with Dahl is I feel like we were all sold a bill of goods because Dahl came up here after hitting really well in the minor leagues. And he's been okay. He had those 2 home runs early on. He only had 1 home run since. He's got a 250 batting average, 3 homers in 16 games played. You're right. He does have some pop for a lineup that right now is missing any type of power at all. But I would argue, do you really need another left-handed hitter? Was Jake Cave really that important? I think the Jake Cave value was something that was overhyped and overrated by the franchise. To me, I think the answer, you're right. Moving on from Pache may be the right way to go. Because I don't see the value of keeping Pache on a team that already has Rojas. Go out for another right-handed hitter. Somebody else. Anybody else. Somebody who has some sort of value. Now, the problem with George Springer is Springer is not a guy who is a bench player. I mean, I know he's not having a great year this year with the Blue Jays, but you're talking about a guy who is a World Series MVP, a multiple-time All-Star. I mean, how do you explain to that guy, we traded for you, but now you got to go sit on the bench? Like, you're bringing that guy in to get some playing time. So I don't know how you would work through that conversation with him. A veteran who is 34 years old. When does he turn 35? Let me double check here. He turns 35 this September. So he will finish the year at age 35. Like, can you convince him, hey, you're an older player now. You're not the guy you used to be. You and Brandon Marsh are going to alternate in left field. I mean, if he's willing to do that, I could definitely be willing to have that conversation. And I think that the potential in his bat is much greater than what you would ever get from Pache or from Dahl. So I like the idea. The question with the Phillies, as you said, though, is what do you do with Turnbull and Taijuan Walker? It's going to be hard to give up Walker because of the money on his contract. Turnbull is probably an easier deal to move. It's something where you call the Blue Jays and say, we'll give you Pache, we'll give you Turnbull, and we'll give you fill in the blank prospect, and we'll take George Springer. Like if that's the deal, I can totally see where you're coming from, Steven Ventnor. The question, Steven Ventnor, is you just mentioned the outfield. They still need a right-handed pitcher. I know that people have mentioned Miller from the A's. I'm not sure who that right-handed pitcher is. I don't know who that extra bullpen guy necessarily would be, because the question comes back to, let's say you go out and start talking about a right-handed pitcher. What do you do? And I'm just putting the question out there. With a trade market with so many teams that don't think they're out of it. See, this is always going to be the conundrum in the modern era of baseball. The problem for teams like the Phillies is you have obvious needs you would like to address. But you look at the teams out there, aside from the Rockies and the Marlins in the National League, and then the White Sox and the A's in the American League, every team could theoretically make an argument that they are still in it. I mean, to me, the Angels and Blue Jays are completely out of it, but I'm sure in their organizations, they're saying we are one hot streak away from maybe getting back in this, right? What if the Blue Jays or the Tigers or the Angels go on a hot streak heading into the All-Star game? Then what do those teams do? How do they explain selling at that point? You know, in the National League, the Cubs are 5 games out of the wild card. The Nationals of all teams are 4.5 games out of the wild card. So people talk about Tanner Scott. Well, Tanner Scott's left-hander for the Marlins. So is there somebody on the Rockies or the White Sox who you would even consider? Is Miller of the Oakland A's the only guy out there who's a right-handed pitcher? And I think convincing a team that they should sell is just as a complicated process as then making a deal with them, because not everyone will see the world the way you do. Not everyone is going to see your team, your players the way you do. And so for the Phillies, they got to decide 2 issues ahead of the deadline. Number one, who are the teams that we are going to pursue conversations with, who we know will be a dance partner on a trade? And number 2, we got to figure out what we are willing to give up for any of these players. You know, look what the Flyers did last week. The Flyers parlayed the draft pick that they got in the Claude Giroux trade 2 years ago into another first-round pick for next year. Now, Danny Briere, Keith Jones, and company are walking into the 2025 NHL draft with 3 first-round picks. 3 first-round picks next year. They are basically going to own the draft next year. So an organization, though, like the Flyers said, we have a trade team in the Edmonton Oilers, a team that is a little more desperate than we are to replenish their farm system. They need some prospects. They need this draft pick in the 2024 draft more than we do. So now for the Phillies, they got to do the same thing. They got to find a team that desperately wants or needs something that Philadelphia has. Is that person Spencer Turnbull? Is that player Mick Abel in the minor leagues? Is that person Muzziotti, the outfielder, down in the minors? Is that player Kingery down in the minors? These are questions we will answer tomorrow on Game Night. Have a great everybody.
Unsportsmanlike with Evan Cohen, Chris Canty, and Michelle Smallman.
This was a move that Philadelphia.
All right, for the YouTube audience watching, thank you for hanging in there with me for the post show of Game Night on my YouTube channel at Josh Hennig on Twitter X. I wanted to jump on really quick before I wrap up with a quick point on these off seasons. You know, for someone like myself, I love sports. I'm passionate about it. I can talk with a guy like a John Buccigross or yesterday Brendan Scoopy Robinson, or our Flyers insider Kevin Durso, or an Austin Krell, our Sixers insider. I talk to these guys for hours about the teams and the sports and the scenarios and everything. But I can't get something out of my head when it comes to the NBA offseason so far. And that is, relationships really matter in life. I don't think we as a society properly value and put a what's the word I'm looking for? We don't, as a society, we don't value relationships as we should. We don't put a positive marker on people having good, functional, healthy relationships anymore. Everything is about a results-oriented business. Like, it almost doesn't matter if people get along sometimes. And I get back to what we saw this week in the NBA. Klay Thompson felt disrespected by the Warriors. He saw Jordan Poole get paid. He saw Draymond Green get paid. He saw Andre Iguodala get a chunk of money. He saw everyone but him get paid. And he decided to take less money to leave Golden State and go to the Dallas Mavericks. He is getting paid less money than Tobias Harris. And Klay Thompson is a borderline future Hall of Famer in basketball. Tobias Harris will be a footnote in basketball history one day. He could have gotten more money per year from the Warriors, but he took less per year to go to the Mavs. And he didn't go to the team that his dad wanted him to go to. His dad, Michael Thompson, played for the LA Lakers. He said no to the Lakers, went to the Mavericks. Why did he do all those things? Because he already has a relationship with Kyrie Irving. He valued the professional and budding personal relationship he has with Kyrie over all the other stuff. Look what the Flyers are doing. The Flyers are valuing relationships. They brought back Garrett Hathaway. Is Hathaway the best player in the world? Absolutely not. But does he have a value to the Flyers? Yes. Is he a player that has relationships in that locker room? Yes. Is he someone who respects the organization as a whole? Yes, he is. And you look at other decisions that have been made around the NBA recently. Jonathan Isaac signed a contract extension with the Magic because they're the only team, his only team. And they have supported him through all of the quote-unquote controversies that he has dealt with in the NBA, the crazy injuries that he has suffered, his decision to not get the COVID shot years ago, his positions on social political issues. They supported him through everything. And he said, I would rather be here long term and maybe get paid a little less than hit the open market and get potentially more and go to an organization that might want to get rid of me when things get tough, when things don't work out the way they want it to with me, the player. And so you look around a sport like baseball. Dave Dombrowski said that they'll make a trade that'll disrupt the chemistry of this team. And for as much as Philly fans might say, oh, Garrett Stubbs, why do we need that guy? Brandon Marsh, he's not hitting well, right? But these guys are integral parts of the chemistry of that locker room. And we don't always value in today's society that chemistry, relationships, people believing in each other, players supporting each other, that these all matter because these are human beings. These are not robots. These are not icons that get plugged into a video game. We as a society have dehumanized the athletes and the celebrities around us, and we have turned them into machines. You know, I had a wonderful conversation today with, you're going to hear the interview tomorrow's show about Bright Spot Cafe's co-owner, Shannon Brower. And we were talking about how, you know, the uniqueness of, she had the opportunity to make Jason Kelsey his food. And Jason Kelsey was so happy with his food, he told his mom. And then his mom goes to Shannon and tells her how great Jason spoke of their food. And she said, you know, it's the human element. It's the small relationships and connections like that that make people come back to a place like a restaurant. And she said Bo Allen brought Jason with him on Tuesday. Bo Allen went back to Bright Spot Cafe in Seattle on Thursday after I ran into Bo and interviewed him Saturday on 97.3 ESPN. And Bo, I told him, I was like, hey, you got to go have breakfast at Bright Spot Cafe in Sea Isle. And I think there's a part of him that might have only done it because they were a sponsor of the event and helping support Connor Barwin's Make the World Better Foundation. But he was so happy with it, he went back. Jason was so happy with it, he told his mom how great it was. These relationships matter on the grand big picture, and I know so many cases like that I can't even talk about on a microphone, whether it's on 97.3 ESPN FM, whether it's on my YouTube channel. I don't want to divulge stories and information about relationships that it's not my place to. But, there is something to be said for these relationships, these connections that people have, they do matter. And I think that as sports fans, for as passionate as we all are, we got to remember these are still human beings. We got to still remember the relationships people have with each other matter. Chemistry, as Dave Dombrowski says, matters. The relationships these people develop with each other, it means more than we have given weight to in recent years. And I think that we're seeing more and more that relationships and how these athletes are treated as people matters maybe more than just winning. Because sometimes winning at life is valued more by certain people than winning on the court. And whether you're a fan of LeBron James or not, the reality is that man has prioritized what his family wanted and his business partners over winning championships. LeBron could have left the Lakers multiple times and gone somewhere else to win championships, but he has planted his roots in Los Angeles for his wife, for his kids, for his business partners, and said, this is where I'm going to be. And to certain sports fans, they may say that's stupid, but for a man who grew up without a father, for a man who grew up having to live at his coach's house so he could go to high school because that was the only way he could get to and from school, maybe his priorities are different. And you know what? Maybe we all need to stop treating these priorities as negatives and start treating them as positives and do a better job understanding the people who are the athletes and not just objectifying the athletes. All right. At Joshua S. Hennig on Instagram, at Josh Hennig on Twitter. I haven't gotten back to the people who are mad at me about what I said about Royce White last night. I don't have time for that right now. I'll try to get back to somebody at some point, but if all you're going to do is tweet at me with, single-minded vitriol, I don't have time for you. I'm just going to be honest with you guys. I'm not like some people on social media who's going to feed into the haters online. It's just not who I am. I don't got the energy. I don't got the time for it. In fact, I probably talk too much on my YouTube channel at Josh Hennig at the point because I got work to do. So have a great night, everybody. I'll talk to you tomorrow.